1. So this story happened over 20 years ago, back when I was in high school working for my first non-family job. I worked at a restaurant that offered a buffet and pizza, a game room and drinks. No, not one with pizza in the name either. The location in question no longer exists, so I feel more comfortable telling this story now. At the time, I was 17, male, working on a Sunday. I asked to work the bar open shift 9 to 4. Around 12 or 1, the closer would come in. I was able to do everything except pour alcohol and do register for sales related to alcohol. No big deal. Football comes on, Packers versus Cowboys, and soon the closer came in. She, in her 30s, had some sort of disability, given a speech impediment, but I neither knew what it was, asked, or even cared about it. I put in my 2 weeks' notice as I got sick of the closing shifts I would get, which would be until 10 p.m., but sometimes going past midnight in violation of my work permit. Closer comes in during a slow period and tells me she's got it handled for now. Great. That leaves me with nothing really to do, so I pick up a tub and start bussing tables. Cleaning them, for those who may not know. We have 2 managers on duty that day, one I liked, Madge, and one I didn't like so much, Rob. Screw you, Rob. Madge sees me bussing and asks what I'm doing, so I let her know what happened. She sees the bar area getting behind with dirty glasses to be cleaned, along with a long line of customers, and asks me to go back to help. I figure I'll do the glasses and let her handle the customers. That way it's less stress for her. I get there, get going on glasses, and after a few, she sternly tells me she had it under control. I explain that I was asked by the manager to help out over here. She angrily says I'm not needed here. This left me puzzled, and I went back to bussing tables, as I couldn't find any manager at the time. A couple of minutes later, Madge sees me and sternly asks why I wasn't doing what I was told. I again explained what happened, that she asked me to help, but my help wasn't welcomed. I was trying to keep the peace between us and didn't want to look like I was doing nothing, so I was trying to help get tables turned over quickly, since we went to having a hostess seating given how busy it got. I get told again to go back, do glasses like I was, and to get her if anything else happens. So I go back, knots in my stomach, for I knew a storm was brewing. Deep breath taken, I drop my tin off for the dishwashers and go back to the bar. Her line is at least a dozen deep, only 1 register, and no clear counter space for dirty cups to go. So I grab a couple of cups, start washing, but next thing I know, a hand grabs my wrist. I turn over, and here is the closer reprimanding me. Angry at being grabbed like that, I say to her, "Don't you ever grab me like that, with any kind of hostility. I was told to be here and to help you by the manager. I do not appreciate you grabbing me like that. If you ever do that again, I promise you I will consider it an attack on me personally, and I will defend myself appropriately." At the end of that, Manager Rob comes around, grabs her off to the side, leaving me to manage the bar by myself. The patrons there who saw what happened sided with me, saying I handled it about as well as I could have, and that she was out of line. Nice to have that validation, but it mattered not. A few minutes later, I get told to go home. Wait, what? Me? Don't I get a chance to say my side of what happened? No, go home. If I leave, I'll never set foot in this store again, I say, giving one last chance to do the right thing. I don't care. Go home. Fine. I went home. Rob didn't witness any of what happened earlier, to my knowledge, and sided with her and didn't even bother getting my side of the situation. So I left. The rest of the week I was supposed to be closing the game room 4 to 9. I called the next day after school, got the main manager, explained what happened, and said I cannot in good faith work the rest of my notice given the hostile work environment that has come up. He thanked me for my time and ensured if I ever needed a job in the future that I would have one there. Thankfully I didn't need to go back, but it was still nice to know. 2. I know we all hate telemarketers, but these "can I buy your house" folks push me to a new level of annoyed. They used to give out a fake company name and say Home Builders Inc. or something. I ended up Googling it and got in contact with the actual owner of that company. I believe it was out of Minnesota. He told me that there's a company in Egypt, of all places, that sells sales leads to American companies, slipping by the legality of combing through public records for personal information. He told me to get at the American companies. I'd need to pretend to be interested in selling my house and wait for a call from the US-based company and confront them. So that's what I did. After giving some vague info that was incorrect to the Egyptian caller, I did eventually get matched and called from someone in northern Ohio. When I explained I knew what he was doing and that it wasn't legal, he eventually hung up on me and blocked me. I called from a few different numbers until he disconnected his line. Small win, but not the story I came to tell. The calls haven't stopped, so trolling is my new favorite thing. I constantly beat them to the punch and ask to buy their house. Ha! Ask them how Egypt is and what the pyramids are like. I've tried to order pizza, put them on hold to see how long they'd last, or just change the subject completely. My biggest win was when they asked, "Do you have any other properties to sell?" I said, "In fact, I do, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, District Columbia. A very famous address here in the States." Somehow, my Egyptian caller wasn't familiar with it, and took all my information. Regrettably, I didn't have amazing information, but I did tell him it had a fenced-in yard, a ton of extra bedrooms, a big round fence, and a top-notch security system. 2 days later, I got a call. "Not sure who you are, but well played. I've been laughing for the last half hour. How did you convince him you owned the White House?" The first gentleman that called got the joke. He congratulated me and we had a laugh and he hung up. An hour later, I got another call from someone who wasn't laughing. "I'm trying to figure out why I got a sales lead on the White House." Well, that's because people in Egypt, where you buy your illegal sales leads, don't know a thing about America. "Yeah, well, I don't think it's funny." Well, that's tough because I think it's hysterical. Not only did you waste money on a useless sales lead, now I'm wasting your time. He told me to go screw myself, although not as delicately, but I'm not mad. Does anyone else have any famous addresses I should sell? Hellfreezer's note, a quick Google search shows 924 North 25th Street. That's currently an empty lot, but once upon a time it was the location of an apartment building, where Jeffrey Dahmer lived in apartment 213, I believe it was. I wonder if they'll work that one out. It was actually torn to the ground in 1992, and quite understandably, I don't think they've ever built anything on it. I think something similar might have happened with H.H. Holmes, but don't quote me on that one. 3. When I was in high school, a few of us would get up early and lift weights in the football building before school. I wasn't about to go to class all day smelling like I had worked out prior, so I always took a shower when I was done. One day, as I was about to rinse the shampoo out of my hair and soap off my face, another kid thought it would be just hilarious to turn off my hot water. Let me backtrack a bit. I attended one of the poorest school districts in my state, and to that, our school was a basketball school. So much so that the varsity basketball coach frowned upon his players playing football, and everything that wasn't blatantly obvious was done to sabotage the football program. One of these actions involved not repairing the heater in the football building, which was freezing cold in the winter. Back to the story. The hot water itself didn't always work, but when it did, I took advantage of it. The day of this incident was one of those below-freezing mornings with no heat but hot water. As I had soap in my eyes, it took a moment to remedy the situation, but when I did, I found the culprit standing there laughing. Now, at the time, I was 6'2", 215 pounds, and quite strong. This moron who froze me out was maybe 5'9" and 120 pounds. What possessed him to do that? I'll never know. Being angry in the moment, I slugged him in the shoulder, nothing intended to injure or even hurt that much, but just enough to show my displeasure. Shortly after, I began having people come up to me and start asking me about the fight. I simply relayed the events as I just have here, and I thought that would be the end. Nope. Later that week, people started saying that the other guy claimed I was too scared to hit him when he was looking, and that I had to wait until he had a towel over his head. The only response I had to that nonsense was a hearty belly laugh. I guess this really hurt his feelings because he went to my football locker, no locks or even doors for that matter, peed in a bottle of my cologne, and ran my toothbrush around the bowl of the toilet. Thankfully, I had many more friends than that little weasel and was notified before using either. Honestly, at first I did want to pound the little clown, but the feeling was over so quickly as it came. I didn't know what I was going to do at that point, but I knew it needed to be good. I lived in a very rural area, and one day as I was driving along, the method of my revenge materialized. A poor, innocent woodland creature had been struck and killed, and its lifeless body lay in the middle of the road. I only lived a couple of miles away, so I turned around, went home, grabbed a trash bag and a shovel. I went back, collected the poor thing, and drove to my high school, holding the bag at arm's length out the window, to where I knew his car was parked. I would have been satisfied leaving it under his car for a few hours, but Providence shined her light on me. The fool had left his car unlocked. I took the trash bag with its deceased inhabitant and shoved it under the driver's seat, tucking the plastic in so it wasn't observable, unless you stuck your head on the floorboard and looked under the seat. Victory! Other than the original tap on the shoulder, no violence was employed. I heard through the grapevine that it took him nearly 2 weeks to find that bag, and while no accusations were ever thrown in my direction, I never heard another peep out of him. What was your question again? Oh, what kind of animal was it? Well, I've been raised that if you're going to do something, you do it right, and to the best of your abilities, so yes, the poor creature that lost its life on that back road, and which gave me the best revenge I could ever have gotten, was indeed a skunk. 4. I bought some 3rd-gen AirPods from a Target in 2022. I didn't expect them to last long, but alas, the left earbud went out one day this year. No biggie. I heard you can buy a replacement AirPod, and a $70 AirPod is cheaper than buying a brand new pair at $125. I'm broke in my AirPod case, and right AirPod worked fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I go into the Apple store completely void of customers, except the 34 employees all lounging around. I'm sitting there wondering why I'm waiting 20 minutes, until all form a victory tunnel, clapping in unison, bearing the fakest smiles for an employee that's moving to another store. I wish I could make this stuff up. I hated everything about this place. Finally, an employee comes to me, knows exactly what I'm asking for, rushes me through the terms and conditions, and jokingly says blah blah blah. She gives me an AirPod, tells me to go home and charge it for an hour, and sends me on my way. I felt rushed, but I had my AirPod. I went to sleep, happily knowing the next day I was going to be able to drown out the other half of my noisy job. I wake up in agony because my new AirPod sounded like it was underwater, and it would make this high-pitched screeching noise before disconnecting. My day is ruined. After work, I go all the way back to the store to complain and ask them what I'm supposed to do. They say, "Well, it's actually a repair. We could give you a new AirPod, but you'd have to pay again." I was shocked at the audacity and told them to give me a moment. It took about 5 seconds to Google the synopsis to the FTC's decision on defective merchandise. I showed the employee, and they grabbed their manager. She had this facetious smile, like some kind of wannabe police officer with a nose ring. She told me I was wrong, and that I should have not signed a contract I didn't read. As if her employee didn't literally vigorously swipe to the bottom for me to sign it. She refused to hear the damage for herself. I don't blame her for not sticking a random AirPod in her ear, but she was rude and I wanted to gross her out by offering. I record a video of myself leaving the AirPod on the table and walking out the store. Some little dude in a security outfit escorted me out. Even though no one asked me to leave, I was just walking out. I felt like their goal was some form of intimidation, but they're too scared to go as far as breaking the law, which if you're gonna act like a mini-mob, you might as well go all out. My bank was literally across the street from the Apple store. I go in there and tell them I bought a device from Apple that was defective. I went back to the merchant. They refused to acknowledge the damage and do a refund. I left a device at their store and walked straight here to dispute it. And guess what? I got my money back. Screw you, Apple. I wanted to share this little win I got, also giving a full description of how I did it, for anyone who might go through the same thing with these companies. Don't give in. Their contracts mean nothing if they're breaking the law. Hellfreezer's note, also, Soundpeats, definitely not Spawn, but I use them myself, will get you a decent pair of earbuds with active noise cancelling for a fraction of the price to replace one defective Apple earbud. 5. I'm a 22-year-old man. I'm the primary caretaker of one of my family members. Among other chronic illnesses, she is a diagnosed narcissist with early dementia. As per my family's request, I moved with her and took an online job as a trilingual translator to ensure I would be there 24/7 should she have an emergency. Somehow, she has interpreted my constant presence as me not having a job, despite me explaining several times that I did in fact work. She went to the point of stealing my ID and debit card, saying she would not be giving them back to me unless I gave out resumes when she told me to. I have searched the whole house and couldn't find them, so I was forced to comply. I have a huge amount of respect for people who work in these fields, but I am not taking a job as a cleaner or a cashier when I work in my field of choice. That's when I noticed all the places she was forcing me to send out resumes to were requesting a cover letter. This is where the malicious compliance takes place. I took an already written cover letter and changed some details so it'd be like I wrote it myself. I made her read it and approve it as per her request, then added the following sentences in my second paragraph. If this letter arrives on your desk, please know that this application has been sent without my consent. Already having an online full-time job, please do not take it into consideration. As you can imagine, I didn't get called back much. Only one place sent me an email, and once I explained the situation, their HR team wished me luck with my situation and told me this motivated them to read cover letters more carefully. At the same time, I contacted my boss. I knew they sometimes open in-office positions, and my boss is one of the nicest people I know. So I contacted her and asked if there was any way I could get the next in-office position, telling her exactly why I was asking that. I've been working there for 6 months and she never had any complaints about me, so she sent me a permanent contract starting in January 2025 for their office. It's overseas, in a country where I'm legally allowed to work without a visa. I won't specify which country, since I have the intention of disappearing there. My flight is already booked, and only my best friend knows what is going on. I have a letter already written out where I tell my family to not warn the authorities. As soon as I land, my bank account will be closed and my phone subscription cancelled, and after 5 years I will ask to become a citizen in that country, and won't renew the paperwork necessary to prove my citizenship in my birth country. I have 3 younger siblings, all of them are still in middle school. They have their own email addresses that our parents don't know about, so I will send them an email telling them this is not their fault, and that they are the only ones in the family who are allowed to contact me. I'll also add that I will answer any questions they have once they turn 18. I'm excited. I'm excited to start a new life. I'm excited to get out of this family who has been the source of most of my problems for my whole life. I'm excited to finally escape toxic people in a toxic environment that was destroying my mental health. Only 2 months left, and after 22 long years of waiting, I'll finally be free. All of this because my last straw was forcing me to send out job applications. And just as a clarifying point, when I say renew my citizenship, I simply mean documents such as passport, ID, anything to prove that you are who you say you are in that country. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream 386, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description, right at the top. Little as $1 a month goes a long way, and you get all the videos on a Monday at once. Okay. No other bits and bobs today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what was the last book that you read? Or the book you're currently reading? Right now, I'm currently reading the 3rd in the Starfall Point series, which is basically... it's charmed. There's no delicate way to put it. It is quite literally charmed with a fresh coat of paint on it. It's written by an author named Molly Harper, and you may have heard me mention their vampire series of books before, Half Moon Hollow. which I enjoy. So when I say that they definitely borrow elements from other places and put their own spin on them, I don't mean that as an insult, that's quite literally what they're doing. So this version is essentially Charmed, except they're not quite literally sisters, but they're sister witches. And they're more powerful together, all that sort of thing, albeit with somewhat more unique elements thrown in. You've got like the mystery MacGuffin, they've got to find these things, and I'm generally enjoying it. The characters are all unique and interesting in their personalities. I'm not sure if the third one is the final one, but it would kind of make sense because each book is focused on a different witch, and there are 3 primary witches. And there's a couple of younger ones in there as well, but they're connected to one of them. Anyway, that's mine. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Revenge's Ice Cream 384, and was about what do you celebrate? Do you do anything for Halloween? I believe it was. Today's answer comes from Jessica Palmer. I dress up, dress the kids, and take them trick-or-treating for the last 20-ish years. I would love to decorate our house, but we live in a dirt back road, so there's really no one to appreciate it. But my kitchen is decorated year-round. I love my spooky kitchen. Thank you very much for your answer, Jessica Palmer. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.